Innovation in the workplace is not a gift reserved for the select few. It's a discipline, a practice, a mindset. The foundation of innovation is curiosity, the desire to ask better questions, not just settle for the standard answers. Most people see their job as a list of tasks to be completed, but innovators see their job as a series of opportunities to improve, simplify, and create more value. It all begins when you start looking at your daily routine with fresh eyes and asking, is there a better way to do this? Innovation in the workplace begins with a shift in thinking, a simple but profound decision to stop accepting things as they are and start imagining how they could be better. Every day, people walk into their offices, factories, or stores and settle into routines that have been followed for years. They do what they've been taught, follow procedures that were created long ago, and often never pause to question whether those procedures still make sense. The innovator, however, is someone who looks at these same routines and sees opportunities. Opportunities to streamline, to enhance, to bring fresh energy into stale systems. This mindset doesn't require a fancy degree or a special title, it requires curiosity. Curiosity is where innovation is born. When you begin to ask why things are done a certain way and what might happen if they were done differently, you open the door to ideas that can transform the workplace. One of the greatest obstacles to innovation is comfort. People become comfortable with familiarity, even if it's not the most efficient or effective way of doing things. Innovation demands that you step outside of this comfort zone and challenge the status quo. This doesn't mean being reckless or tearing down systems without thought. It means observing carefully, thinking critically, and having the courage to propose a better way. Courage is essential because innovation often meets resistance. People fear change and they might resist new ideas simply because they are unfamiliar. But innovators understand that discomfort is a sign of growth. When you push past that initial resistance, you often find that people begin to embrace improvements that make their work easier and more fulfilling. In every organization, there are hidden inefficiencies, small frustrations that people tolerate because they believe that's just the way things are. The innovator sees these frustrations not as obstacles, but as invitations. Invitations to create solutions that save time, reduce errors, or improve collaboration. Innovation doesn't always require groundbreaking technology or massive budgets. Often it's the small, consistent improvements that lead to the biggest gains. A new way of organizing files, a simplified process for communication. An idea to automate a repetitive task, these small innovations can accumulate over time and create a culture of continuous improvement. Being an innovator also means taking ownership of your environment. Many people wait for supervisors or upper management to introduce changes. The innovator doesn't wait. They see the workplace as their own field of responsibility. They take pride in making things better, not because they are asked to, but because they understand that the success of the organization is tied to their personal growth. This ownership mentality transforms employees into leaders, regardless of their official position. Innovation requires an action-oriented mindset. Ideas are valuable, but ideas without action are just dreams. The workplace innovator is someone who not only thinks creatively, but also takes initiative. They are willing to build a prototype, run a small experiment, or draft a new plan. They understand that not every idea will succeed, but every attempt will teach something valuable. Innovators are learners. They embrace failure as a part of the journey, not as a defeat. Every misstep brings them closer to a solution that works. An often overlooked element of innovation is listening. Innovators are excellent listeners. They pay attention to the frustrations of their colleagues, the feedback of customers, and the subtle signs that indicate where improvements are needed. By being attentive and empathetic, they gather insights that others miss. Innovation is not always about being the loudest voice with the biggest idea. Sometimes it's about being the quiet observer who notices a small tweak that makes a big difference. Another habit that fuels innovation is the willingness to learn from outside your own industry. Innovators are curious about how other businesses operate. They look at successful strategies in different fields and ask how those strategies can be adapted to their own workplace. Sometimes the best ideas are borrowed, refined, applied in new contexts. The key is to stay open-minded and always be on the lookout for inspiration. Collaboration is also vital. Innovation is rarely a solo effort. Great ideas are often born from brainstorming sessions, discussions, and shared experiences. The innovator understands the value of diverse perspectives. They invite others to contribute, knowing that a team working together can develop more powerful solutions than any individual working alone. They are not threatened by differing opinions, they welcome them, because they know that true innovation emerges from constructive dialogue. Consistency is another trait that defines an innovator. They don't just innovate when a crisis forces them to, they make innovation a daily habit. Every day, they look for small ways to improve processes, to enhance the work environment, or to better serve customers. Over time, these small efforts compound, leading to significant transformations. A positive attitude fuels this consistency. Innovators approach challenges with enthusiasm, not dread. They see obstacles as opportunities to stretch their creative muscles. This positive energy is contagious. It spreads to colleagues, creating an environment where new ideas are welcomed and celebrated. In such a culture, innovation becomes a natural outcome rather than a forced initiative. Innovation in the workplace starts with a simple choice, the choice to be proactive instead of reactive. Many people walk into their jobs each day and perform their duties exactly as outlined, never questioning, never suggesting, never imagining that they could influence the way things are done. But those who bring innovation into the workplace understand that their job is not just to fulfill tasks, but to improve the process of how those tasks are accomplished. Innovation begins when you develop the habit of asking better questions. Instead of wondering how to finish your workload faster, you begin to ask how the workload itself can be structured in a better way. You begin to see inefficiencies not as annoyances, but as golden opportunities waiting for someone to improve them. One of the key attributes of an innovator is the ability to see the obvious that others overlook. Many people get so used to how things are done that they become blind to alternatives. Innovators stay alert. They approach every routine, every process, every policy with a fresh perspective, always looking for ways to simplify, enhance, or even completely reimagine. They ask questions like, why do we handle customer feedback this way? What if we adjusted the way teams communicate? How can we make this process faster without sacrificing quality? These questions ignite the creative process, turning ordinary tasks into fertile ground for new ideas. But innovation is not just about ideas, it is about execution. The best idea in the world has no value unless someone had to take the first step toward making it a reality. Innovators have a bias for action. They understand that small experiments lead to big breakthroughs. They are not afraid to test a new method, to trial a new tool, to draft a new procedure. They are willing to risk small failures because they know that failure is not the end of innovation. It is part of the learning curve. Every failure teaches a lesson, and every lesson refines the idea into something more effective and impactful. Innovators also understand the importance of feedback. They don't operate in a bubble. They share their ideas with colleagues. They ask for input. They listen carefully to constructive criticism. Collaboration is a powerful accelerator of innovation. When you invite others into your creative process, you gain new perspectives, uncover blind spots, and often stumble upon ideas that you wouldn't have discovered alone. Innovators are humble enough to know that great ideas can come from anyone, regardless of their title or role in the company. They build networks of open communication where ideas can be exchanged freely and improvements can be made collaboratively. A true innovator never stops learning. They read, they observe, they study trends both inside and outside their industry. They understand that staying informed is essential for staying ahead. They attend seminars, they participate in workshops, they watch how other successful organizations operate, and they continuously feed their mind with new information. This constant learning keeps their thinking fresh and prevents them from falling into the trap of complacency. They don't wait for formal training. They seek out knowledge on their own initiative because they understand that knowledge is the fuel for innovation. Mindset plays a massive role in workplace innovation. An innovator's mindset is one of ownership. They don't see themselves as just an employee. They see themselves as a contributor to the overall mission of the organization. They feel responsible for finding ways to add more value, to make the organization better, stronger, more efficient. They don't say, that's not my job. Instead, they say, if I can make it better, it becomes my responsibility. This ownership mentality transforms ordinary employees into leaders who drive progress from within. Attitude is another key ingredient. Innovators maintain a positive outlook even in the face of challenges. They don't get discouraged when a new idea is met with skepticism or when a proposal doesn't get immediate approval. They understand that persistence is part of the process. A positive attitude allows them to keep going, to keep refining, to keep searching for better solutions. Their enthusiasm becomes infectious, inspiring others around them to engage in creative thinking and to participate in the innovation process. Innovators also have a deep respect for time. They understand that time is one of the most precious resources in any workplace. Every minute saved from an inefficient process can be reinvested into more productive activities. Therefore, they are constantly looking for ways to eliminate wasted effort, to automate repetitive tasks, and to streamline workflows. They approach every project with the question, how can we achieve the same result with less effort, less time, and greater quality? One powerful tool innovators use is visualization. They take the time to mentally walk through processes, visualizing each step, identifying friction points, and imagining smoother alternatives. This mental rehearsal helps them to anticipate problems before they arise and to design solutions that are practical and efficient. Visualization turns abstract ideas into actionable strategies, making the path to innovation clearer and more achievable. Innovators are not intimidated by complexity. They understand that beneath every complex problem is a simple core issue waiting to be identified. They break down big challenges into smaller, manageable pieces, addressing each component with focused creativity. By simplifying complexity, they make innovation accessible not only to themselves but to their entire team. The workplace innovator understands that change is constant, and those who are willing to adapt, to improve, to innovate will always stay relevant. They see their role not as a passive participant in the company's success, but as an active architect of its future. Innovation in the workplace is not a product of luck or accident. It is the result of a disciplined approach to thinking differently. Every organization is filled with routines, procedures, and habits that people follow simply because that's how things have always been done. But the innovator doesn't accept tradition as a reason to continue an ineffective process. They understand that progress is born of a willingness to challenge assumptions. They begin by asking questions that others are too comfortable to ask. They look at the workflow and inquire if this is the best way, or if perhaps there's a method no one has considered yet could produce better results with less effort. This habit of questioning is what sets innovators apart from the crowd. Many people mistakenly believe that innovation requires groundbreaking inventions or revolutionary ideas, but the reality is much simpler. Innovation often lies in the small improvements that, when accumulated over time, transform an entire organization. It could be a better way to organize communication between departments, a new approach to handling customer feedback, or an improved system for managing inventory. These are not headline-grabbing changes, but they are the foundation of true workplace innovation. Innovators understand that real change is built on consistent, incremental improvements, not just grand gestures. One of the fundamental traits of an innovator is curiosity. They maintain a sense of wonder about how things work or why they work that way. They don't take processes at face value. They dig deeper to understand the reasoning behind each step. This curiosity drives them to explore alternatives, to experiment with new approaches, and to stay open to learning from every experience. Curiosity turns ordinary tasks into opportunities for discovery and growth. It fuels a mindset that is always looking for what can be done better, faster, or more efficiently. Innovation also demands a certain level of courage. Proposing a new idea, especially in a workplace resistant to change, requires boldness. Innovators are not afraid of being the first to speak up, to suggest an improvement, or to take a calculated risk. They understand that with every idea comes the possibility of rejection, but they do not let that fear hold them back. They are prepared to defend their ideas with logic, to demonstrate their benefits through small trials, and to persist even when faced with skepticism. Courage in innovation is about staying committed to the belief that things can and should be improved. A key element that fuels innovation is observation. Innovators are excellent observers. They watch how processes unfold, how teams interact, how customers respond. They notice inefficiencies that others have grown blind to. Through careful observation, they identify pain points and friction areas that are ripe for improvement. They pay attention to patterns and anomalies, understanding that hidden within these details are the seeds of innovative ideas. Observation allows them to collect valuable data that becomes the foundation of their solutions. Another powerful driver of innovation is empathy. Innovators put themselves in the shoes of others, coworkers, customers. Vendors try to experience their frustrations and needs. By understanding the challenges faced by others, they gain insights that enable them to design solutions that truly add value. Empathy transforms innovation from a self-centered pursuit of clever ideas into a service, or an approach to making life easier for others. This human-centered mindset ensures that innovations are practical, meaningful, and embraced by those they are designed to help. Innovators are also relentless learners. They are not satisfied with what they know today. They are always seeking new information, new perspectives, and new skills. They read books, attend seminars, engage in discussions, and explore industries beyond their own. They understand that innovation thrives at the intersection of different fields, and by expanding their knowledge base, they increase their capacity to make unique connections and generate creative solutions. Lifelong learning is the fuel that keeps their innovative engine running. Taking initiative is another hallmark of an innovator. They don't wait for permission to explore a better way. They take responsibility for identifying problems and proposing solutions. Initiative transforms ideas into action. An innovator sees an issue and doesn't just report it, they start thinking about how to fix it. They take the first step, build a prototype, create a draft, or run a small test. They understand that waiting for someone else to take action is a recipe for stagnation. Innovation belongs to those who act. Resilience is equally important in the innovation journey. Not every idea will succeed on the first try. Innovators accept this reality and are prepared to iterate, to refine, and to try again. They view setbacks as learning opportunities, not as failures. Each obstacle becomes a lesson that sharpens their approach. This resilience ensures that they stay in the game long enough to see their ideas come to life and make a difference. Persistence turns innovative ideas into tangible improvements that others can benefit from. Innovators also know the power of collaboration. They understand that the best ideas often emerge from group discussions where different perspectives clash and merge. They seek input from colleagues, involve team members in brainstorming sessions, and create an environment where everyone feels safe to contribute ideas. They know that diversity of thought enhances creativity, and that collaboration often leads to solutions a single person could have devised alone. Lastly, innovators cultivate a vision. They look beyond the immediate tasks and see the bigger picture of where the organization is heading. They align their ideas with this vision, ensuring that their innovations contribute to the overall mission and long-term success of the company. A clear vision provides direction and purpose, guiding the innovators' efforts and keeping them focused on meaningful outcomes. Innovation in the workplace is not about waiting for inspiration to strike. It is about creating an environment where ideas can grow, evolve, and take shape into solutions that bring real change. Every day, people walk into offices, factories, or stores, and most of them follow the same routine. They do what they are supposed to do, and then they go home. But innovators approach their work with a different mindset. They understand that every task, every process, and every problem is an opportunity to improve. They look for gaps, inefficiencies, and overlook details that, if addressed, could lead to better outcomes for everyone involved. Innovation is not a one-time event. It is a continuous practice of seeing things not just as they are, but as they could be. One of the first habits innovators develop is staying dissatisfied with mediocrity. They are not content with good enough. They believe that every process has room for improvement, every product can be enhanced, and every service can be delivered with more excellence. This constant pursuit of better results drives them to question existing practices and seek out alternatives. They understand that always require a revolutionary idea. Sometimes, a small tweak in the way a form is filled out, a shift in how a team communicates, or a minor adjustment in workflow can lead to significant improvements over time. An essential quality of an innovator is their ability to embrace problems. While many people see problems as annoyances, innovators see them as opportunities. They recognize that every complaint from a customer or colleague is a signal pointing towards something that needs attention. Innovators are problem solvers by nature. They approach each challenge with a mindset of curiosity, asking questions like, why is this happening? What is the root cause? How can we address this in a way that prevents it from recurring? This approach turns problems into the raw material for creative solutions. Being proactive, another distinguishing feature of workplace innovators. They do not wait for management to tell them what needs to be fixed. They take initiative. They notice a bottleneck in the workflow and start thinking about how to remove it. They see a communication gap between departments and begin drafting ideas to bridge that gap. They understand that leadership is not defined by a title but by actions. Innovators lead from wherever they are by stepping up and taking responsibility for improving the environment around them. Innovators are also willing to take calculated risks. They know that innovation involves stepping into the unknown and that not every idea will work on the first try. They are not reckless, but they are not paralyzed by fear of failure either. They prepare, they research, they test, but they also act. They understand that progress comes from experimentation, and even failed attempts provide valuable insights that bring them closer to the right solution. This willingness to risk small failures is what eventually leads to big successes. Another habit of innovators is staying connected to the customer experience. They make it a priority to understand the needs, frustrations, and desires of the people they are serving. They don't rely solely on reports or secondhand feedback. They engage directly with customers, ask questions, and observe behaviors. This hands-on approach provides them with insights that numbers alone cannot reveal. Innovators use this knowledge to design improvements that resonate with the real needs of the customer, ensuring that their ideas have practical impact. Innovators also cultivate the habit of thinking in systems. They understand that every task is part of a larger process, and that a change in one area can have ripple effects throughout the organization. They think holistically, considering how their ideas will interact with other parts of the business. This systems thinking approach helps them design solutions that are sustainable and scalable. They avoid quick fixes that solve one problem but create new ones elsewhere. Instead, they strive for solutions that enhance the overall efficiency and harmony of the organization. Continuous learning is at the heart of innovation. Innovators are lifelong students. They stay curious about new technologies, emerging trends, and best practices across industries. They read books, attend seminars, watch tutorials, and participate in discussions. They understand that the world is constantly evolving, and to stay relevant, they must keep evolving too. This commitment to learning equips them with fresh ideas and perspectives that fuel their creative problem-solving abilities. Collaboration is another critical element in the innovation process. Innovators understand that guns rarely come from isolated individuals. They create environments where people feel safe to share ideas, no matter how rough or unpolished those ideas might be. They facilitate brainstorming sessions, encourage feedback, and build cross-functional teams that bring diverse perspectives to the table. They recognize that collaboration not only enhances creativity, but also builds collective ownership of the innovation process, increasing the likelihood of successful implementation. Innovators are also masters of simplification. They understand that complexity often leads to confusion, errors, and inefficiency. They have a knack for breaking down complex processes into simple, manageable steps. They look for ways to eliminate unnecessary procedures, automate repetitive tasks, and streamline workflows. By doing so, they create more time and mental space for themselves and their teams to focus on high-value activities. Simplification is not about cutting corners. It is about focusing on what truly matters and removing obstacles that hinder progress. A positive and resilient attitude is what sustains innovators in the long run. They maintain optimism even when their ideas face rejection or when progress is slower than expected. They understand that innovation is a journey filled with setbacks and detours, but they remain committed to the destination. Their positive energy keeps them motivated and also uplifts those around them, fostering a workplace culture where people are more open to change and eager to participate in creative efforts. Innovation in the workplace is not a special event that happens once a year during strategy meetings. It is a mindset that should be present in the everyday actions of every individual who's part of an organization. It begins when a person decides to stop accepting things as they are and starts envisioning how things could be. Innovation is not about dramatic overnight revolutions. It's about constant, deliberate efforts to improve processes, products, and experiences. It's the habit of seeing every obstacle as a challenge that can be overcome with creative thinking and persistent effort. Innovators do not sit around waiting for perfect conditions to start improving things. They understand that perfection is a moving target, and that action must be taken in the present moment, using whatever resources are available. One of the fundamental characteristics of an innovator is their unwillingness to settle for mediocrity. They don't tolerate inefficiencies, just because that's how things have always been done. Instead, they challenge these outdated methods, not out of rebellion, but out of a genuine desire to see the organization operate at its best. They ask difficult questions. Why do we have this step in the process? What would happen if we eliminated it? Is there a simpler, faster, or more cost-effective way to achieve the same result? These questions might make some people uncomfortable, but they are necessary for fostering an environment where innovation can thrive. Another key principle that drives innovation is ownership. Innovators take ownership of their work environment, regardless of their official title or position. They act as if the success of the entire organization depends on their contribution. This sense of personal responsibility drives them to look for improvements constantly. They don't wait for instructions from supervisors to solve problems. They take the initiative to identify inefficiencies, develop solutions, and propose changes that can enhance productivity and results. This proactive attitude is the bedrock of workplace innovation. Innovators are also excellent learners. They never assume that they know everything there is to know about their job. They are always looking for new information, new techniques, and new perspectives. They read, they attend workshops, they watch videos, and they seek mentorship from people who have walked the path before them. They understand that the moment they stop learning is the moment they start falling behind. Their hunger for knowledge keeps their minds sharp and their ideas fresh. They don't restrict their learning to their immediate industry either. They explore innovations in other fields and think about how those concepts could be applied to their own work. Problem solving is another area where innovators excel. While most people view problems as irritations that need to be tolerated, innovators see them as puzzles waiting to be solved. They are energized by challenges because they understand that every problem hides an opportunity to improve. They don't avoid problems, they run toward them. They gather information, brainstorm possibilities, and aren't afraid to test unconventional solutions. They know that even if an idea doesn't work, it will still provide valuable insights that bring them one step closer to the right solution. Innovators embrace failure not as a sign of incompetence, but as a necessary step in the creative process. Collaboration is a crucial ingredient in the innovation process. Innovators recognize that the best ideas often emerge through the combined effort of diverse minds. They actively seek input from colleagues across different departments, believing that a fresh perspective can often shed light on a problem in a way they hadn't considered. They're not protective of their ideas. Instead, they welcome feedback even when it is critical, because they understand that refining an idea through collaborative effort leads to stronger outcomes. They foster an environment where others feel safe to contribute ideas, no matter how small or unconventional those ideas may seem. Innovators are also masters of execution. They understand that an idea without action is worthless. They don't spend endless hours in planning meetings discussing possibilities without taking steps to bring those possibilities to life. They believe in starting small, testing ideas in controlled environments, gathering feedback, and making improvements along the way. They are not paralyzed by the pursuit of perfection. They value progress over perfection, knowing that a rough prototype in action is far more valuable than a perfect plan sitting on paper. One of the most overlooked traits of innovators is patience. They understand that meaningful change doesn't happen overnight. Innovation is a process that requires persistence and resilience. There will be obstacles, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But innovators stay committed to their vision. They know that every small improvement adds up over time, and that consistent effort will eventually lead to significant results. They don't get discouraged when things don't work immediately. They analyze what went wrong, adjust their approach, and try again with renewed determination. Innovators also possess a keen sense of empathy. They put themselves in the shoes of their colleagues, their customers, and anyone affected by their work. They understand that the best innovations are those that genuinely address the needs and frustrations of people. By focusing on human-centered solutions, they create improvements that are not only effective, but also deeply appreciated by those they serve. Empathy ensures that their innovations are practical, relevant, and embraced by the organization. Finally, innovators are driven by vision. They see beyond the immediate tasks and daily routines. They have a picture in their minds of what the organization could become if it embraced a culture of continuous improvement. This vision inspires their efforts, guides their decisions, and fuels their motivation. They are not satisfied with maintaining the status quo. They are builders of the future, architects of progress, and catalysts for positive change in the workplace.